By the special grace of God, well, we don't depend on the government. Yeah, we are surviving through our handworks and doing our best to meet up with the economy. Though it's not easy for the poor masses and
When you say doing your best to meet up with the economy, because the economy has changed, so what has changed for you?
many things changed, most especially the price of commodities in the market and most especially in this Asaba. I will start from the rentage, the housing stores, everything is on increment now. So we are trying our best to try as much as possible to fit into.
So do you now have more sources of income? What's different? Do you now eat, maybe you used to eat 3 times before, now you eat once. What's different so that you can, so you can survive, because man must survive. So what's different?
Yeah, like me, I don't know of others. I still maintain my 3 square meals.
Yeah. What are you? Odogu.
I'm a chef, I cook, so the sooner we person they work in a shop, so probably I do my cooking stuff and I must chop.
So you make more money?
Yeah.
So do you have more sources of income now?
No, currently I'm just doing my cooking stuff.
Okay, so what do you think government can do to better the economy, to help us?
We will start from the masses, because most of the things happening now is we the masses, we are the one causing it.
Na man they do man.
Yeah, na man they do man, because if you go to the market now, what you bought last week 300 now, they will tell you 500.
Well, it's not their fault though.
Yeah, when you ask them, they will tell you is Tinubu is Tinubu. Tinubu is not the one causing it. We the masses, we are the one causing most of the problems we have, and for we to solve the economics in this country, we have to deal with ourselves before going to the government. So when we deal with ourselves, we know that the next thing is to deal with the government. Yeah.
So let's start with ourselves first.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great day. How are you coping and thriving in Nigeria right now?
In fact, it's not easy. Because if you look at the economy very well, you see that the cost of goods and services are on the increase on a daily basis. And as such, we find it very difficult to maintain our meal. Like those that are taking their meal morning, afternoon, evening, this time because of the present increase or inflation, you see that they are not taking morning, they'll skip afternoon, then take evening. And as such, the children, there is one adage that says, "Anyway, belle face," which means that after taking the morning meal, the rest one is left for the children for that afternoon. Anyway, they find themselves, they will take whatever they can take. Then in the evening, before they go to bed, they will take the meal at home. And as such, this is affecting their careers. Because some of these children who are not mature enough to go into a relationship, you see that because of the present circumstance of the society, they are going into a relationship, they are even taking in unwanted pregnancy, and so many vices are coming up every day. And indeed, this is yes, as a means of survival, and this is indeed affecting the society, their career, and even their future.
So what do you think the government can do to better this situation?
Like when this issue of cost increase came up, the government went into increase of salary. And this increase of salary, if you look into it critically, it is not the way forward in this country. What we want in this country, if I may suggest, and if the government will hear me, number one is to reduce the cost of price, the cost of fuel. If the cost of fuel is reduced, it means that every section of the economy will fall down in terms of price, because whatever you buy as a businessman or businesswoman, you must move them from one end to another. In the course of that, you are paying for transportation, and when the transport is high, the cost of goods will be high.
So it's the fuel.
Yes, the fuel, that's number one. Then number two is the opening of border. If our border mark is open, believe me honestly, everything, when there is inflow of goods and services, it makes the people have option on the goods to go for. That does not mean that they will stop patronizing our local goods. No, they can also patronize Nigeria brand, then patronize foreign brand. But in that case, the competition will be high, and people will see means of living again, and they will see the hope of living again. And in that case, Nigeria will be better again. And also again, we are looking at how Nigeria can grow from consumption to production. If Nigeria can grow from consumption to production by investing in agriculture, giving more attention to agriculture, that will help us to have more of productivity in the society, and with that, agricultural products will be spread across the different catchment areas which we have, and that will help us to maintain a standard of production, and that will help us again to reduce starvation, and even the issue of high increase in cost of goods and services will be reduced, and people will see the hope of living again.
All right, thank you very much, sir. For this Nigeria where we dey so everything don't change, food don't cost, everything don't change. So how you say they survive?
We don't say everything don't change for this Nigeria. We just survive on God, and because trouble no good everywhere. Trouble you enter there because of greediness, and so you enter there, carry everything up finish. See rice, see garri, see everything, see fuel. Make them carry fuel down, carry everything down, so that everything will come down. You get some people who are poor, where they for this Nigeria, they no fit see food shop for this Nigeria. We know now they go for this Nigeria. They say Nigeria go good, but then they kill us for this Nigeria. So old women where they village, they no fit shop. Some old women where they for they no fit shop, they no fit do anything. It's Trubu is a bad person, number one, and Yoruba people is no good. There's damage all the Igbo people for Nigeria. Damage for Lagos, say Nigeria go good, but Nigeria no good. Make them keep us good well and put Nigeria very good.
So if Tinubu just reduce the price of fuel, reduce the price of food, everywhere, Nigeria go better.
If they increase the price of fuel and everything, Nigeria go better, because now because of the fuel everything go up. Without the fuel everything no go up. So understand? If you want to go buy gasoline and they go say they enter fuel, then pay transport. If you want to enter transport go Lagos now, then they cost too much of price, 40,000, 30,000. It's no good. When Nigeria good, it's okay like that. When they carry everything down.
All right, thank you. So for this Nigeria where they so I say they survive. I say they, say every day food just they go up, food everything just they go up. So I say they survive.
The way I say they survive, say man, no go dey on one something. Even if say they collect salary, you go still they do another thing, because now that salary you go pay house rent, buy clothes, send give mama, send give papa. So it's not easy, sha.
How many things you can they do now?
I dey do many things.
Anywhere.
So first thing I legit work, I dey run now.
Okay, so what do you think say government will do like this now?
If you look government matter, not to talk government. Because the government not even dey help us at all. We will be youth wey dey the country, they dey help us at all. So what I want make them do, at least make them bring price of things down, so that we go fit cope with them. Because most of us get family, you understand. So if they not bring things down, how we want to cope? At that time we call the see kidnapping, Yahoo don't for everywhere.
Don't they say another?
Yahoo don't for everywhere because of the way government take to us. On a normal, young man like me no still say I'll go do person fraud, say I won't live happily. No. Happiness no dey inside that thing. I just say at the way things does be so.
How they make them do am?
Yes, now wetin I go talk.
All right, now thank you. Are you coping in Nigeria right now?
To be honest, I'm actually coping by God's grace. That's it.
So you're coping by God's grace.
Yes.
Okay. So where has God's grace taken you to? What's different?
At least I know that there is a huge difference from the previous states than now. But the other thing is that the way things are going right now, it's not really easy. I won't lie, but if you start sitting down and saying, okay, because of this, you will not really do something. So you just have to keep upping your game and do something that will make you survive and all.
So what do you do now? You work how many jobs?
Actually, I work 2 jobs, yes. But one is remoted job and the other one, I'm actually a teacher.
That's interesting. Oh, physics. That's interesting. Pretty girls love math. So, what do you think the government can do to better the situation?
To me, even though I say anything concerning that, they literally don't do anything. That is it.
Please still say something. Just say something.
That's true, because sometimes I was talking with my friends and when we are talking about some things for things to really be fine, but we see that if there is actually light, then things are going to be very, very, very perfect. But now there's nothing they can do about giving us a standard and stable light. Because if there's light, some person don't have to get fuel and to do their business and run some certain things. But them, they won't consider that, because if they say if there is constant light, there's no way they are going to run their business, generator business and some other things. So that's greed totally. So even though we say this, it's not going to happen. So
well, at least we will never stop speaking about it. So government should try to improve the lights condition. We will never stop speaking about it. We will keep on trying. So thank you very much. What's happening in Nigeria right now?
Like it is right now, the economy of the country is affecting everybody seriously. It's affecting the youth especially, because some youths don't have job, while some do mere job to survive. Before things were cheap, life was easy, but now everything is so high and cost. Everything is times two. Imagine a bucket of garri 5,000 naira in some places.
Not 5,000.
Yes, bucket of garri is 5,000 naira. So the thing is really affecting the poor people in the country who cannot afford it. So we plead that the government should make a change. They should make a change by bringing down the cost of price of things and bring back fuel subsidy, so that things will be better for all of us.
I want you now to speak to people that are actually, many of us are struggling, let's be honest. But at the same time, some people are still doing so well. Because I believe you are doing, look at your skin is glowing, her skin flawless. So how do you manage to keep your skin flawless like this? What is it that you are doing differently? Do you now have, maybe, do you have more sources of income? Do you now take like more jobs that you did not consider possible before? What's different for you?
Yes, I do more jobs, more than like 4. I go out there and search for more jobs. I do any job to survive. I don't keep to one single job, because if I do, hungry will kill me. So I go search for more jobs, get myself busy, search for more funds to help. If not, hungry go buy somebody.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. How are you coping in Nigeria right now?
Okay, I'm coping very fine and well, thank God, but the situation is not really pleasant. We're just trying to manage.
Be very fine. You're not struggling.
Of course, for me personally, I will not really say I'm struggling, because, like I say, not everything in the river is drowning. Some things are also swimming.
Wow. You
Opportunity.
You gotta give me the, show me the way.
All right.
Show me the way. So what's different for you now? Do you maybe now have more sources of income? Do you now say eat like twice in a day and like leave one out of it? Do you cook by yourself instead of eating out? So what's different? Because something has to change.
Yeah, of course. What changed was that I knew that I cannot change the situation of the country right now by just complaining. All right, everything is going up, the incomes are going up, and the rest of them. So all I needed to do was look for how to better my income. All right, so they say what money cannot buy, more money will buy.
Yes, energy, I love it. So what do you think government can do?
All right, so for me personally, I'm not a politician, but I know maybe they can find a way to reduce the price of things. If there's a way they can find a way to reduce the price of things, so that at least the common man can be able to afford some things like the fuel price. And there's always a hike of a lot of commodities in the market. Right? So
reducing the price is a way. All right. One of the ways, at least. Okay. Thank you very much. How are you coping with Nigeria's situation, the economic situation of Nigeria? How are you surviving and thriving?
Anyway, if you ask me about the economy of Nigeria right now, what I would say is that for me, even if I was passing through it a little better some 3-5 years ago, presently now, I must tell you the truth, that it has not been easy as a mom, taking care of children boys at home, feeding, like you telling me about feeding 3 times way back. But presently, you want to do the 101 kind of feeding, like having a 3 square meal, and it becomes tough on family. You having the relationship with your children peacefully years back. Right now, everybody are just trying to be on their own. So the economy right now is truly telling on everybody, because if me having a smaller family is feeling this heat, then I want to wonder those having little children who they feed almost every time. How do they cope? So for me, I must tell you, it has not been easy, but thank God the gift of life is not something we buy. If not, it would have been real hard.
Yeah, so what do you think government can do? to just make everything better? What do you think can be done?
What I think the government should do at this point is beating the barrier in between this political stuff. Like when you have, before the governor came into seat, there was something we have like the ABC, the PDP. Now that the governor is on seat, he should please, as father of Delta State, see Deltans as one body. That thing, that political party divide in humanity, he should please try to look at it at this point and see that at this point of being the father and the governor of the state, let's work as one. Let's work to achieve great goals. So this political enmity cost everywhere. The governor should please at this point look into it and see that Deltans are better than political parties and pen that we've done in the last 1 year. He's into office 1 year now. We still wish him in the next 7 years or the first 4 years that he should please gather Deltans and see how we work to make the state a better place for everybody to stay.
Right, thank you very much, Ma. So in order for hungry to not kill you, you have to go out there and search for more jobs, take on remote jobs, and do better things that could better your living condition, while also waiting on the government to make Nigeria better. Well, that was to the end of today's edition of Street Talk. Till next week when we come your way again, my name is Chinazo Uche Fajama, and this is Delta Television, the People's Pride.
64 is 64, celebrated yesterday. And while we're still beaming in all that glory, all that excitement, some might not be so excited. The reality is that we must continue talking about Nigeria. Indeed, if we must understand the journey ahead, we must understand the journey before now. With us in the studio is one who will do this conversation and lots more. The man on your screen is the founder, Nigeria's foremost environmental non-governmental organization, Fight Against Desert Encroachment, FADE. Chairman, Nelson Mandela Gardens, a conservation resort in Asaba. One-time managing director and chief executive officer of Castaigne, West Africa PLC. Founder, Didi Museum, Nigeria's first private museum. An author of many books, a columnist with the Sun newspaper, popularly referred to as the Desert Warrior for his daring multiple crossing of the desert. He is no one else but Dr. Newton Jibuno. It's good to be with you this morning on the morning ride.
Thank you for having me.
I'm privileged.
Good morning, Doctor.
Thank you very much for
welcome.
Before we even proceed, talk about Nigeria at 64. You are older than Nigeria, sir. And the country
a lot older. Because I was in my early 20s when we saw that wonderful night stroke morning of 1st October 1960. It's something that every time I remember, it sends me back to some wonderful feelings about our nation.
Yeah.
I was at the race course, now known as the Tafawa Balewa Square,
yes,
in Lagos. The night the Union Jack was lowered, and the green, white, green Nigerian flag hoisted. It was an emotional event that stayed with me for a very, very long time. And most of what shaped my life today started from that moment, because it exhibited hope. Hope of a nation that was emerging. Hope of a nation that was now going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
Hope of a nation that was, marching along with some other developing countries that were coming along at that time. So when I look back and I see that a lot of that has been dashed, I begin to wonder where, especially if we are to talk about the future, I begin to wonder about the future.
Okay. You've already explained this nostalgia and you've explained everything for me right now. Well, I want to get how you really felt back then. 1960,
yes,
October 1. What would you have envisioned Nigeria like 64 years after?
Well, an emerging nation. I was looking for an emerging nation. One of the reasons why I rushed back from UK after my studies was because I wanted to be part of that emerging nation. I had jobs all over.
Yes.
And because the kind of 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan that were made available to at least some of us who were then subsequently abroad,
yes,
was such that there was so much that was going to be happening in Nigeria. Then, of course, we had what I would call the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class. Today, I think the middle class has been cleaned out of the system completely. It's either you are a lower class or you are upper class. That's the hope I talked about, because if and when you find yourself in that lower level of development, you want to get to the middle class. Yeah. And from the middle class, you can then move on to, even if you don't get to the upper class segment, the hope was there. And so I think one may need to have to reset the whole structure once again, because it was there then. And so the Nigeria we hoped for then, that the British, they were leaving, and we were going to gradually take over, manage it our own way, direct it our own way, make the plans that will be passed on to the future generation and the rest of it.
Okay.
All that is no longer there. And if you ask me how to reset it now, I'll have a serious problem, because we have missed the roads. That road that we traveled on, I think we have.
Okay. There must be something positive about our independence that we got in 1960. What are some of the significant changes you observed in Nigeria since independence, both positive and negative?
Well, when the government of Tafawa Balewa started, plans were made to launch Nigeria into an industrialized nation. Just the way most of the other countries, I can mention a few, started. Look at the Dubai we go to today. There was no Dubai at that time. Most of the Gulf countries, most of the Asian countries, they were almost in the same category as we were. Nigeria followed suit by planning for, or made plans for, car assembly plants that were to be built in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Paper mills, also 6 to be built around the whole country.
Yeah.
The rolling mills, also 6 in the 6 geopolitical. And then, of course, I can't remember the 4th or 5th one.
Okay.
So most of these industries were meant to launch the nation. And in fact, it was as a result of that industrialization that Nigeria started building polytechnics and colleges of technology all over the country, because we were lacking in the manpower to feed those major industries. Steel mill, car assembly plants, it was planned in such a way that 15 years after the launch of the car assembly plant, Nigeria would start making their own cars. The same with the steel mill. The same with the paper mills. But now you have a situation where thousands of polytechnics have been built. Thousands of colleges of technology have been built. Universities are all over the place. Now they are graduating, or they have started graduating some time ago. Where are the industries? That's where the problem is coming from. The industries are no more. So that's why I use the word reset. We need to really sit back and reset the countries going forward.
Okay. But since 1960, have we gotten anything right in the country? Is that something positive we should celebrate as we clock 64 years today?
Yeah, we may have built more than 64 multi-billionaires.
That's sarcasm to speak. Now, looking at all these things you've said, you've really mentioned how the dream was so bright back then when it started. And if we want to make the future better, we must go back into the past and see what we can really look at and make adjustments for ourselves in the present. Where did it start going wrongly in Nigeria? The dream was nice. Tafawa Balewa had a great plan. In fact, I've read some of those articles, some of those things, and I had my mouth agape. I was just wondering the kind of brains. And I understand what you said. Many nationalists came all the way from the UK from the US, they returned to Nigeria, one of them, and they wanted to build their country, they wanted to make their country great. In reverse now, it's people that live in Nigeria making the other countries greater. But let's find out, where did it go wrong in Nigeria? Can you trace that?
If you clean out the middle class from the system, then you bring in corruption. You bring in lack of accountability. If we can get back, starting with accountability, then maybe we can begin to look at the whole resetting once again. Those plans I talked about, they're still there. The infrastructures for the paper mill, the infrastructures for the steel rolling mills, they're still there. So why don't we go back, first of all, and find out where did we go wrong, and begin to correct things from there. Look at Nigeria Airways, for instance. It was the flagship of the continent of Africa. 28 planes we started with. Where are those planes today? We have not asked questions about, so we must begin to ask questions. That's where accountability comes in.
Now, when you returned to Nigeria, when you celebrated Nigeria, when Nigeria was one, by the way, it looked like Nigeria was united. The north, the south, the north, the west, the east, they were all united.
Yeah, we started dividing it. We started dividing the country.
I'm trying, because I'm just trying to understand history. You sit down here, you are 86, you'll be 87 January 1. That's what you said before we came on set.
That's right, yeah.
So this is an opportunity to grab all the knowledge, all the information, all the wisdom, all the history that we can grab right here. I'm blessed and I can live with those and enjoy this program. But then, we were united at some point. When did we start to be divided in Nigeria? Can you trace that again?
Well, I know people are not going to like the statement I will make now, and I think the creation of states contributed immensely to our problem today.
Oh, no, like
Creation of states.
Yes.
How did it
You see,
contribute
we're
to
talking about dividing. Look at the country was just 4 regions in the country. We were just 4 regions. And we've gone from 4 to 30 what?
36.
36.
That's the FCT.
Yes. Today, in less than 64 years, that's not right. You don't plan a state overnight. You don't structure the division overnight. That was where the whole thing started from. I mean, I know we are all benefiting from state creation because we said that would mean taking development to the people. You can take development to the people through local government structures, through traditional institutions, like it was. So I think the creation of states contributed immensely to the kind of disunity. Because I talked about Nigeria, I worked and lived in every part of this country. I'm sure our discussion will dive into that. Yes. I built hospitals in Maiduguri and Sokoto. I built structures in Abuja. I built Wall of Tree program for my environmental sustainability in Kano. And I'm talking of working and living there. I'm well established in Lagos. I built a museum there. One of the tallest buildings in Nigeria today, the net building, 35 stories. I was a project manager on it. That was Nigeria. I was going around as a Nigerian. Now, you go around as a Deltan, or you go around as a,
man from the South.
Divisions, that was how the whole division started. Like I said earlier on, people are not going to like it because they think that creation of state has helped in building the nation that we have today. No.
Even amongst the Igbos, someone says, I'm Delta Igbo.
Okay. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Okay, look at the way we where we are now was part of Western Nigeria.
Yeah.
We went from Western Nigeria to become Bendel. First Midwest, then Bendel. Then from Bendel to now Delta. Now we're still talking of another state.
That's a controversial conversation.
Yes.
Which would have had a very separate interview for.
So we all want to be big fish in a small river.
Okay.
That's where the division is coming from.
Now that you have identified where we got it wrong and what is making us not so strong as we used to be back then, what is the way forward? Looking at Nigeria, Nigeria is now 6-4. Do you think there's any chance of us getting it right as we move forward? And what should be done to really restore our lost glory as the giant of Africa?
We have to go back to that master plan that Nigeria made in the 70s between Gowon, President, Head of State Gowon, and Obafemi Awolowo. They did set out a development plan for the nation to industrialize Nigeria, to make Nigeria and go for us to come out of underdevelopment to become a developing state. Where are those plans today? So, to answer your question, we have to go back. But I know why people may not want to go back.
Why?
Because of accountability. Somebody is going to be held responsible and accountable. And if we don't become accountable, there is no way, no matter what plan you put on the table today, it is going to go wrong again. It will go wrong. We will continue to...
we are going to go very, very broad on this conversation from here to there. But then, because of the history you're rolling out, let's talk about the Civil War. Because you talked about how states somehow created division in the country. What was the role of that Civil War? It looks like from that moment, Nigeria became against each other.
Well, the coup. Before you talk about the Civil War, talk about the coups. Okay. Coups contributed. There was the first coup, which was not... According to them, those that made the coup, they are telling us today that it was wrong.
Okay.
Yes? So then they did the second one to correct their first mistake. That one too was not right. And that led us into the Civil War that we fought for 3 years. Millions of lives, development stalled for 3 years. But like I said earlier on, we came out of it. Yeah. And that was when, like I said, Gowon, President, Prime Minister, Head of State Gowon brought out Awolowo from prison, and they decided to put Nigeria on a developing strata. And they did. All the infrastructures to take Nigeria to a developing nation was all there, and they are still there. Okay. So how do let's go back to that.
Go back to the drawing board.
Yes, let's go back to that and begin. But like I said, people are going to be
held accountable. Do you think Nigeria was way better off under the military rule? Because few Nigerians believe that there was this accountability you're talking about. We had accountability under the military regime, and they feel since 1999 we got democracy. Democracy has done us no good. Do you toe that line?
Some of my friends would not like what I would say now. There is hardly any difference because what we have and what we have is a dichotomy. It's a partnership between the military and the politicians.
Nobody has put it this way.
It's between the military and the politicians. When we have the politicians in government, if you look, you find there are so many military men in that government. When we have the military in government, there are many politicians in it. So I have never really worried too much about that, because that is what we've been having. There is hardly any difference between the military and the...
This is wisdom. I can't even debate, because we even look at it. When democracy came to birth in 1999, the first man who took over was ex-military leader or ruler, or talk about Olusegun Obasanjo, General Olusegun Obasanjo. And just after we took a breather from that, we had a former general.
Yes,
It looks like that's the system.
It's like when you talk about the partnership between the military and, unfortunately for us, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but I see it as such. The military remain the senior partner in the whole arrangement.
Senior partner.
Yes. That's why, from what you just said, that's why we've been having military heads of state coming in to be.
And they have a seat where they all discuss about the country. Yeah. The man Olusegun Obasanjo has been talking, really not advice, whether we like it or not, to the presidency right now. And so we just keep on seeing the impact of former military heads of state. We hope Nigeria turns out to be better, really. It looks like when we talk about the Nigerian problem has taken us away from global problems as well. Let's get back to the studio and think about this. It looks like the Nigerian problem of, the country's economic downturn, insecurity, has taken us away from other issues that bedevils the entire world. One of such issues, climate change. Yeah. And I know you have a very particular interest when it comes to that area. Tell us about what even spurred your passion into climate change, and what are your thoughts towards climate change as it is now in Nigeria? I'll have more questions as you continue.
I'm happy you're changing the conversation a little bit, which is very good for me too. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the program about what shaped my life.
Yes.
Those were the things that happened soon after our independence. Okay. And I became like a student of politics. I have always been. And in 1964, Kwame Nkrumah made a statement that the continent of Africa will remain in darkness until the Sahara Desert is breached. Not necessarily building a bridge across the Sahara, but taming the Sahara. The Sahara is the biggest desert in the world, following Gobi in China. There is also another desert in California and Nevada, been tamed. Desert in Israel, the Negev desert, the whole of Israel was built on the deserts. So almost all the deserts in the world were being tamed and something useful made out of them. Okay. So that statement that Kwame Nkrumah made touched me. So when I now finished my studies in the UK and decided to come back to Nigeria, like I mentioned earlier on, I made inquiries. What is it about the Sahara? Since that is stalling the development of the continent of Africa. Everybody said it's a no-go area. It's an impossible place to go. It is this, it's a killer, it's all sorts of things. Yeah. But fortunately for me, as a very young 10, 11, 12-year-old boy, I did a lot of fishing in Annam, not too far away from here. Okay. And I went on hunting expedition with my uncle then. And I learned the art of conquering fear. In other words, every time you tell me that something is impossible, I try to find out why.
And you crossed the desert multiple times.
That's right, yes. So that was why when I was now coming back to Nigeria, I decided to drive from London.
Oh no.
All the way from Europe. Oh. Across Europe, across the Mediterranean.
How long did that take?
And across the Sahara Desert.
How long did that take? How many days?
2 months.
2 months.
Okay.
And that now, one, I did what people said was impossible. That is crossing the Sahara. 2, it exposed me to the danger that Kwame Nkrumah spoke about in 1964. And so that was how my involvement in environmental issues started. Not just, but as that was going on, I became then the issue long before the climate change matter started. So when that came, I decided to be a part of that climate change debate because I have experienced it practically.
Okay. Dr. Jibono, you witnessed Nigerians' independence. How did the journey of independence shape the nation's environmental policies, especially in terms of the use of land and conservation?
Well, there's still a lot of abuse going on, which I have been campaigning on in the last so many years. I have built wall of tree program in Kano, in Dambata area of Kano, to stop the encroachment of the Sahara Desert. I've done it in Katsina area of the country. And Nigeria became a party to the whole climate change issue. I have attended a few of those climate change. Out of the 29 climate change conferences around the world, I have attended 15.
Impressive.
Around the world. So Nigeria is participating. The question you may want to ask is, what have we benefited?
Yes.
What have we learned from all that COP meetings, COP conferences around the world? I would say very little. Very little. But it's a work in progress. One is, I'm developing a Desert Warrior initiative that is going to, that is those I will pass on the torch to, because it is a program that will last so many, many years. So yes, Nigeria is in it, and I'm hoping that one of these days we will begin to bring out initiatives that will help contain the kind of environmental catastrophes that we are having all over the world, which will soon get into Nigeria, because we are experiencing some floods already. And some bushfire.
Yeah, the president now has been making many moves to combat climate change issues and the likes. Matter of fact, this one time he appointed his former media aide to help him, push for that. Have you admired his gestures so far? Do you think they are yielding any result? Do you think that over the years, our leaders have yielded any result as regards their battle in terms of preserving the climate?
It's a very difficult question, because I'm in it. I have been in it for 40 years.
Wow.
And if they are doing anything without taking into consideration the things I have written, the things I have done, the projects that I have carried out in the country on this whole climate change issue, then it's a non-starter for me. Because I think I'm the foremost environmentalist. Like I said, I started it long before this whole debate came up, before it became a topical issue. So I don't know how they want to go about it, but I can tell you that we are heading for some very serious catastrophes in this country if nothing is done quickly to contain the likely fallout that we may have from the climate change that is taking place all over.
Okay, just to talk about some of these, some of these so-called catastrophes that we might suffer if care is not taken, so that the young man watching, the young lady watching, would understand clearly and know that this fight is not just for the warrior Jibono, but for everyone.
As you know, the climate is warming up. That's what this whole COP meeting is about, to bring down the temperature, so that the whole thing cannot. Because once you have that warming up, you can even feel it here in Asaba.
Yes.
With the way, when it is hot, it's very hot, hotter than it used to be. And when it's raining, it's coming thunderous, in a very thunderous manner, not the way it used to be. So everything is changing, all right? So if and when you have that, all you do is to see how best you can contain it. The sea is rising because of the warming up of the climate. The iceberg is melting and making the sea level to rise. Okay, so while the sea level is rising, the development that is taking place in all our cities, especially the low-lying areas, are going down. So if you have the sea looking down on the land, what happens when you have a storm? That is why in some countries today, cities are disappearing. Look at what's happening in America right now. That is what we have to learn from and begin to take measures. Because if you have the land going down and the sea, rivers going up, you're looking for trouble. So the only way then is to bring down the temperature. And that's why we all have to do whatever we can to start looking for fossil fuel reduction and the rest of it, so that we can contain. I've seen it all. I mean, I have done the crossing of the Sahara 4 times.
Okay.
Because of just to raise global awareness, to let the continent of Africa. Let me also tell you, there's hardly any, in almost all the continents of the world, there is desert. It's only the Sahara that is not tamed, that is still active. So you can imagine the situation where temperature is rising, the Sahara is encroaching, the sea level is going up.
It's not tamed. Just explain a little bit further.
Like what I said at the beginning, what Kwame Nkrumah made in his statement, you have to take development to the deserts.
Okay, begin to build infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, you have to take development there that's being done in China right now with Gobi. Gobi is just half the size of the Sahara. And they have if you go take a study, see what they are doing with Gobi. They are even turning it into agriculture.
We don't mind the Sahara to have a city in it. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, can you reflect on the Nigeria you saw during your first Sahara crossing in 1966 compared to the Nigeria you're seeing today? And what should we do to address these environmental issues you've talked about? You said you've written a lot about it, and our leaders seem not to be paying attention to what you've written so far. Talk to us, reflect on your first Sahara crossing in 1966, how Nigeria was, how Nigeria is now, and what we should do to protect our environment.
Nigeria, I saw, was heading towards a developing nation.
Okay.
We are still underdeveloped.
Underdeveloped.
Yes, we are still underdeveloped. So how do we get out of that underdevelopment to a developing nation? That plan was made in the 70s. All the way down to early 80s. Why can't we go back to that? It's there. It's there because if, I'm sorry, I may have to be a bit, I don't know.
You're an elder statesman, you can go ahead.
When, for instance, I'll give you a typical example, because I write every week. I'm a columnist.
In the Sun newspaper?
Not Sun and now Pointer.
Okay, that's good. Charity issue.
Even recently, Observer.
Okay.
All right? I write every week.
Okay.
I have written 5 books. Most of them on this issue. If we must get our act right, we have, because where is the plan? Do we have a middle or long-term plan for the country, for people to see? When the last former president made statement that he was going to create 10 million jobs in a year or something like that, I wrote in one of my columns, I said, Mr. President, let's see your plan. I wrote, it's there. Can we see the plan you have made on how to bring
10 million jobs?
10 million, how to create 10 million jobs and take people out of poverty.
Okay. No.
So if and when they come and make statements like this, please, we must say to them, let's see your plan.
Now,
because if you see the plan, then you can, other experts can come in and contribute. You just mentioned about somebody being appointed.
Yes.
Let's see the plan he's going to come up with on how to address the issue of climate change. Because that is the next issue. That is where the whole world is worried about today.
Okay, Dr. Jubuno, if you were to advise the president on what to do on issues like climate change, desertification, what would be your advice? What should the federal government do to protect our country and the environment?
We are a signatory to the climate change issue. We are a signatory. Nigeria, I think Buhari, during his era, signed us into becoming part of the global change matter. The plan is there. So we need to align. There is a climate change department in the Ministry of Environment in Abuja. So it's not Newton Juvenal saying it. They know, they have it. So why don't we just comply, go with what the global community have set aside for every country to
Is there anything the people, citizens, Nigerians can do
to
yes. protect the environment?
Beautiful question. Very nice question. Yeah, I'm, for instance, championing the tree planting operations all over the country. I have done it in Kano. I've received so many awards for what I did in Kano. I did it in Lagos. Actually, it was what I did in Lagos, and Fashola, Governor Fashola, honored me in Lagos and invited our then Governor Uduagha to the event. And Governor Uduagha made a statement which received a lot of applause. And that is, considering that I have done so much in the north, in Abuja, in Lagos, that I was yet to do something in my home state.
Charity must begin at home.
And that was how the Mandela Garden project came to be.
Wow.
All right, so it is part of that, call it adaptation policy, contained in the climate change issue that the whole world is practicing today. We need to see how we can, from a local level, break down our temperature. One of the easiest and cleanest way is to surround yourself with as much green as you can. Surround yourself, because if you go around, you come to the park, you've been there, you see how different it is. Surround yourself. It doesn't take much to plant a tree. I have introduced asking, people celebrating their birthdays with trees. If you're going to turn 30, and I know you are under that, plant 30 trees. And you will see the difference it will make to your environment, to the air you breathe, to the water you drink.
Yes.
The air we breathe, talking about environment, it's also health. If your environment is not right, it affects your health. And why? Because the food you eat, the water you drink, and the air you breathe. The food you eat, you can see before you eat. The water you drink, the air you breathe, you don't see it. And that poisonous air is filtered, can be filtered by trees. So that when you now get the air, it is clean. But when it is not filtered, look at all the fumes, look at all the toxic issues, look at all the, even the rainfall today, they have all become acidic. So the only way you can do that. So I'm campaigning on that. I have done it. I'm doing it in Asaba. I've done it in my hometown, and I'm carrying it around the whole place.
Sure.
Please plant your trees.
All right, let me take you to desertification. How would you describe the relationship between desert encroachment and poverty, migration and conflict in Nigeria and West Africa?
Another beautiful question, because when I started my campaign, I made it clear that if the frontline states, 11 states in Nigeria, do not drive back the desert the way it was encroaching, that majority of the henchmen, majority of the Fulani nomadic henchmen will migrate to the south in search of, I even said then that and it might bring conflicts, possibly war. I said it, I wrote about it, my documents are there. I even went, Fashola became governor, he invited me to ESCO. And that was how they started partnering with me. Okay, the issue then is that Lake Chad went. Most of the water bodies along the fringes of the desert went. And if a Fulani man, a nomadic Fulani man, you think they are poor, they are not that poor, but they are poor now, owning 1,000 animal heads. He wakes up in the morning, no place to graze his cattle, no water body to feed. What do you expect him to do? 1,000 1,000 animal heads will die. So they start to migrate. And that's what today there are colonies all over, even here in Delta. Yeah. They are all over the place. Because we've done nothing to contain. The average nomadic Fulani man do not want to be urbanized. They can't be urbanized because of their nomadic lifestyle. But today, they are all over the urban centers. And that's where the conflict is coming.
Dr. Jibono, this has been very wonderful. Enjoyed every moment, but time is just not friendly anymore because you have been very interesting. And that's what time does, right? Fight with you when you're having a great time. However, before we say goodbye to you, one passion of yours is against land grabbing. Just in a brief sentence, send a strong message as regards that area. Speak to it.
Well, land grabbing is, especially here in Anyama State, is becoming a very dangerous occupation. People are trading with land. And once you trade with land, you abuse the land. And that goes back to what I said earlier on about managing land for posterity. And I hear that there are some powerful cartels that are responsible for this. And I hope, especially with a program like this, they will get to hear me, because I've been writing about it. They will get to know that what they are doing is selling off the future of our coming generation. They're selling off because for us, like my community, we call it Anioma. Anioma means the beautiful land, translated into English. Beautiful land must be handled with care, must be treated with respect. Not when you start trading, abusing it, building all sorts of nonsense that you don't have any plan for, just to make money. You abuse the land. The same land that is giving us everything, the same land that will go back to when we die. Why must you abuse it?
Dr. Jimono, you're a man of many passion, and we really have enjoyed every second, every split second, having this conversation with you. Your position, the things you've achieved are quite enormous, and we've gone through them when we started this particular conversation. I will say that thank you so much for being part of this program. Thank you so much for sharing your life with the country. Thank you so much for leaving the United Kingdom to come back to Nigeria and impact on your great nation. I hope that we can learn from you and the younger generation can pick up and do some of the great things that you have been doing and that you have done. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your good words and for giving us
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Nigeria is 64, happy independence Nigeria. The show continues, but we'll come back, we'll look at the papers, and then we'll say our goodbye. Stay with us.
My people, una know say to chop plenty fruit and vegetable every time dey help person live long. You no go fit see anything when they give good nutrition when boku pass fruit and vegetable. Fruits and vegetables get plenty vitamins like vitamin A, B, C and E, and other minerals like magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, potassium and folic acid. You see, food when contain vegetables and fruit, they help lower blood pressure, reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke, prevent some kind cancer, help lower cholesterol level and blood pressure, remove yamayama from your system, protect you from digestion wahala and high problem, come make your skin dey shine muke muke. E good to eat fruits and vegetables every day, and if you even get blender, you fit blend different fruit when you like together to make sweet drink when oyibo dey call smoothie. Now the Delta State Committee of Food and Nutrition and Delta State Ministry of Information now bring una this message.
That first news, that first kick, that first cry, and those first moments put baby to mother's breast right away. That first yellowish milk, colostrum, has the nutrients baby needs to grow healthy, strong, and sharp. Ask your health worker to put your baby to the breast within the first hour.
Start strong. Zero water exclusive breastfeeding for better future.
This message is from the Delta State Committee on Food and Nutrition and the Delta State Ministry of Information.
Still with us on Morning Ride, Delta Television. We are the People's Pride. We've had conversations on the show today. It's now time for us to look at the papers this morning and see what's making the front pages today. Now, we have the Daily Independent, the Vanguard, Daily Trust, lots of them, but let's start up first with the Daily Independent, because today is day 2 of Nigeria's Independence Day anniversary. So we start with the Daily Independent. Congratulations. Big story right here says Tinubu draws flack over plan to convoke National Youth Confab. Tinubu draws flack over plan to convoke National Youth Confab. That's a big one. And other stories we have above the that's the head here says Obi tasked Nigerians to end state capture by unpatriotic leaders. FG, insecurity igniting fresh round of industrial crisis. That's coming from ASU. I'll just take these stories on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning.
All right, the Daily Trust newspaper has as major headline, #fearless in October, protest in Lagos, Ondo, Osun, halted in Abuja. The riders, Kanu, Akwa Ibom, others, shun demonstration. That's on page 4. And the photo speak here says, Northern Youth celebrates Independence Day and appreciates President Tinubu. That's interesting. At the top mast, we have Independence Day. Jonathan, governors, Mark, say Nigeria will overcome challenges.
Amen.
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 Media Trust elevates Idris Iyaji to DEIC GE Saleh Aminia editor. And also have this apology from the Daily Trust on the Samwa agreement. That's at topmast. Moving on.
All right, let's check out the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Nigerian Tribune says protest in Lagos, Abuja, others over hardship. That's on news page 4. The riders, police fire tear gas at protesters in Abuja. No, we did not. Police Lagos CP gives refreshment to protesters. Efforts to liberate Nigeria on course. That's coming from Showore. Now, at the top strip, Tinubu Shetima, others mark Independence Day in Aso Villa. That's on page 4 Also on page 4, PDP slams Tinubu's Independence Day speech. We expected that. The writer says it's rhetoric insensitive to Nigeria's plight. On page 3, Iran launches ballistic missiles at Israel. And then we have other stories here. This one here, I talked about this morning when we started. On page 29, I'll swear with Holy Quran. El-Rufai denies corruption allegation. Makinde extends subsidized transport scheme by 6 months. Relaxes measures for agric credit loans to smallholder farmers. That's on page 21. On page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, on the front page says, FG confers national honors on Akpabio, Kekireakun, Kalu. Of course, all this, that's on page 3. On page 13, prevail on EFCC to stop harassing ex-governor Bello. Group tells Tinubu. That's on page 13. The final story here on the front page says, arsonist sets noun facility.
Taraba. Nigeria at 64. Obi seeks independence.
Never stop.
At the bottom strip, we have middle belt minorities. Demand secession from North. Others. The writer decry decades of marginalization. Fault British colonist.
All right.
Then we have Bobrisky. NCOS affirms suspension of 7 senior officers. That is on page 15.
Okay. Now, from the Daily Times, we move to the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Guardian. The big headline here says, protests, discontent mar Nigeria's 64th Independence Day celebration. Protests, discontent mar Nigeria's 64th Independence Day celebrations. That's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. CDHR advocates removal of states from federal structure. That's on news page 5. Southwest, in need of modern branches, not open grazing of old. Also on news page 4. Independence Day, governor salutes Nigerians for resilience amid hardship. That's on news page 8. And we have this one here on news page 5, says ASU gives federal government 35-day ultimatum on lingering crisis. I'll take this one finally. PDP, not one-man enterprise. Governors reply, Wike's ally. That's on page 8. Let's move to other papers this morning. Or is that our last?
Let's see what the Punch has for us this morning. Major headline, October 1 protest record low turnout nationwide. Okay. As on page 10, the riders, Kaduna, Plateau, Nasarawa, others shun rally. Heavy police presence in Osun and Niger. Police arrest 10 in Kano, Port Harcourt, as NAS backs President Youth Confab. I wonder why they're arresting if a protest is no longer the right of Nigerians. Anyway, at the top strip, we have flooding worsens despite 180 billion naira spent on dams. That's on page 10. Port Harcourt Refinery misses 7th production rollout deadline. That's on page 73. Dauda Lawa's allegation against Matawale is self-serving, says analyst, and that's on page 20. Petrol imports dropped by 3.58 billion liters after subsidy removal, says the federal government. That's on page 73. Okay. Federal government is still defending,
showing us good stories,
defending their actions. Nice. Yes. Okay, Tinubu governors preach patriotism at 64th Independence Day parades. Okay, and we have federal government extends rice subsidy program to states. That's on page 74. We really want to start seeing when this rice will be bags of rice will be given out, not just telling us that it has been extended to states. And then we have 5 suspects arrested for allegedly killing Ogun fisherman. That's on pages 4 and 5. And the last headline from the Punch: Iran launches 180 missiles at Israel. Federal government plans Nigerians' evacuation. That's on page 21. I actually watched a video of that yesterday. Okay. It was quite terrifying to see.
Very sad.
180 missiles.
Now, our final, last, not the least paper to look at this morning is the Vanguard newspaper. The big headline: Hashtag fearless in October protests. Soldiers, police crack down on protesters in Rivers, Abuja, Kenya. That's on news page 5. Look at the top strip. NNPCL allocates 48.6 million barrels of crude to Dangote refinery. That's on page 19. Emirates lands in Lagos 2 years after suspending operation. That's on page 10. And we have Independence Anniversary, Nigeria at risk of dictatorship. This is coming from Atiku and Obi. You'll find that on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's look just underneath the photo speak right here. We have Independence Day speech. Tinubu failed to address Nigerians' problems, coming from CSOs. Iran launches missile attack on Israel. That's on page 8. I didn't steal Kaduna's money. Can swear with Quran, says ex-governor El Rufai on page 14. And on page 11 says, gunmen set noun facility ablaze in Imo. That's on page 11. That's our final story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper and the final story on the paper review this morning. Let's get back here and talk a little. Blessing and I have a little chit-chat and see if we're happy or not. We're not. Are we happy about these things going on?
I'm not happy. I'm not sad either.
Okay.
It's just, I'm just there. You know, our profession kinds of, it makes us develop this neutrality to stories. When you go through the stories, you just maintain balance. You're not for this, you're not for that. You're just there.
Yeah. However, well, these stories would take us.
But as a Nigerian, I'm disturbed.
You must feel it personally.
As a Nigerian, I'm disturbed about
Protest
some of the headlines.
in Lagos, Abuja, others over hardship. Well, that one touched me. Soldiers, police crack down on protesters in Rivers, Abuja, Kenya. That was the last. That was on the Vanguard this morning, the front page, as per the hashtag Fearless October 1 protest.
Yes.
We have said it before that people have the right to protest, albeit it must be done without causing mayhem on others in society. It looks like the federal government does not get the memo, or the police or the army doesn't get the memo. Or it looks like maybe some of the protesters do not get the memo that they must have a peaceful disposition while carrying out their own protest against
we need to
what's
follow
wrong
up
with
that
the country.
story, because I don't want to speak for the security agencies, but then if those protesters went out there yesterday and they were violent, they were destroying properties, you know, causing mayhem in wherever they were, then the police officers have a right to arrest them. But if they were just going about their lawful activities, you know, their procession on the streets, and they were arrested, then there is a problem. This morning on the AM News, NHRC says they are monitoring those that were arrested during the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. They're arrested, and we're still waiting for the developing stories to come out. Let us know what happened. Let's know what was done to them. Were they persecuted? You know, and those security agencies that were caught, because we saw clips of security agencies firing tear gas on Nigerians. They were just on their own, and then they were firing tear gas. That is against our human rights as Nigerians. We have a right to protest. So these are the issues. We need accountability. We need accountability, we need transparency, and the police agency, the security agencies, the police, the army, they should understand that the people are out there crying, you know, demanding for things
a better
to be,
Nigeria.
for a better Nigeria. So they're doing them a favor, because as security agents, they can't come out to say these things. But then if Nigerians are coming out to, you know, to protest, to ask the federal government to listen to them and make things better, it's for the good of the security agencies as well. I don't see why they should go out there to harm fellow Nigerians.
Well, the police said we shared refreshment. I hope that was what happened. And that would have been a better thing. I've seen some policemen do things like that. It's happened. They share refreshment, sachet water, a little soda, you know, make people happy, make people calm, talk to them in a diplomatic manner, make them understand they feel their pains. It's part of what you should do as a law enforcement agent. Matter of fact, we are encouraging the law enforcement agents to understand that their job there is not to bring, I don't have to say this and not sound controversial, not to enforce order, was to ensure
No,
the
they're trying to
safety.
enforce order.
I'm coming. To ensure the safety, I said it's going to sound funny. To ensure the safety of the protesters. You know,
Yes.
that's what they should do. And the safety of the protesters means that those who might come there to perpetrate harms and criminalities will be apprehended. Sure. That safety means that you as a law enforcement agent will not be so trigger happy or not tear gas happy to just quickly throw the tear gas at the protesters, trying to disperse them just at the first glance of them. Remember, protesters, just like the police, are your friends.
Exactly.
They are there to fight for a better Nigeria,
Yes.
and they should get only that.
I spoke for the security agencies. Now let me speak to citizens as well. When we have such protests in the country, it's not a time for you to come out, because we've seen cases where hoodlums hijack these protests that begin to go and destroy properties.
Yes.
Now, understand that you're not doing that. When you destroy properties, you're destroying properties owned by your fellow Nigerians as well.
Sure.
So when we have protests like this, it's not a time for you to go out there and begin to cause trouble and destroy properties. Don't do that. You'll be causing pain to your fellow Nigerians. So let's learn to channel our grievances in a constructive way. Let's learn to organize ourselves in an orderly manner and not have these issues, issues of arrest, issues of abuse here and there. So
okay, I want to switch from the Independence Day celebration to other matters that happened in Nigeria, because while the country was celebrating, others were having their own issues going on. Example is former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, really saying that he will swear with the Quran, denying corruption allegation. It was on the front pages of papers this morning. And I'm once again concerned about our religiosity in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We don't know how to separate between religion. Anyway, they do swear with the Quran and the Bible in the law courts. But then again, I think that it has come to a point in time when you just have to lead your life clearly. And we have to see the police, law enforcement agents, DSS, EFCC, not as dogs hunting those who might have fallen out with the presidency. They have to give that impression that their job is to just ensure that governors, ex-governors, who they might be after, they're after them for good and solid reasons. In fact, the evidence should be so big enough for Nigerians to know that this man, if committed this crime, should go down for it.
Yeah.
I will not go into that because I am not a magistrate or chief judge. That matter is still in court.
Yes, it's still in court. And you talked about the policemen and other security agencies. What about the legislature? What about the judiciary? You are there to checkmate each other. But it seems what is happening in Nigeria is that the executive calls the shots, while the legislature just watches. It shouldn't be like that. He doesn't need to swear. We don't need him to swear. No. He should just be transparent enough. He should be available while the investigations are going on.
Not playing hide and seek like some governors, ex-governors have
Call
done.
his name. Call his name in your full chest. You're higher belly. Don't act like that. Be available. And
available.
Yeah, we don't need you to swear by the Quran. Just be available and be accountable.
That's the way you honor the Quran. If you're available, if you take the matter seriously, and you show how honest you are, then you have really honored and worshipped your God.
Exactly.
That's how we call it a wrap on Morning Ride this morning. It has been such a wonderful edition this Wednesday morning from Blessed finally.
Thank you so much for joining on Some Morning Ride today. I had a wonderful time on set, and I hope you had a wonderful time with us too. Have a great day, and join us tomorrow morning, bright and early at 7 a.m. I am Blessings, Siagbada.
Yes, I'm Francis Ofule saying stay tuned. More wonderful programs coming up right here on Delta Television. We are the People's Pride. From me, it's good morning, goodbye.
My people, una know say to chop plenty fruit and vegetable every time dey help person live long. You no go fit see anything when they give good nutrition when boku pass fruit and vegetable. Fruits and vegetables get plenty vitamins like vitamin A, B, C, and E, and other minerals like magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, potassium, and folic acid. You see, food when contain vegetables and fruit, they help lower blood pressure, reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke, prevent some kind cancer, help lower cholesterol level and blood pressure, remove yamayama from your system, protect you from digestion wahala and high problem, come make your skin dey shine muke muke. E good to eat fruits and vegetables every day, and if you even get blender, you fit blend different fruit when you like together to make sweet drink when oyibo dey call smoothie. Now the Delta State Committee of Food and Nutrition and Delta State Ministry of Information now bring una this message.
It's hot. It's something new. It's Event 360. Are you a minister of the gospel, a co-proprietor, a producer, corporate body, a financial institution, small and medium enterprise, NGO, or are you interested in owning a business of your own and running it successfully? Then join us on Event 360 every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Delta Television, channels 25, 41, and Star Times on channel 115. Event 360 is designed to showcase your social events as well as to advertise your goods, services, and ideas from Monday to Friday, with presentation on Sunday at 7 p.m. For sponsorship, event coverage, and participation, please call Tony on 0803 406 4079. Grace on 0806 974 8133. Event 360, a platform for all-round participation. Join us.
That first news, that first kick, that first cry, and those first moments put baby to mother's breast right away. That first yellowish milk, colostrum, has the nutrients baby needs to grow healthy, strong, and sharp. Ask your health worker to put your baby to the breast within the first hour.
Start strong. Zero water exclusive breastfeeding for better future.
This message is from the Delta State Committee on Food and Nutrition and the Delta State Ministry of Information.